We have a guest speaker today. As you probably could have figured, Brad teaching in a Broncos jersey last week was a little scared to show his face here this week. So he's like, I got to have a week off and let this thing calm down a little bit. I'm kidding. Brad's actually in Seattle. He's teaching at a church planting workshop. As you know, Brad's planted churches. He's kind of helps plant churches in our district, just provides some leadership to that. And so he's over in Seattle with Sherry, teaching a church planting workshop. And so we have a great opportunity this morning. We have our district supervisor with us, Dave Veach. And Dave is a great man. He's someone that Brad and I respect a lot. Dave's one of those guys who he's in the trenches of ministry, right? He has to deal with a lot of tough situations. And I have a lot of respect for his leadership and who he is. And so he's going to be here sharing with us this morning. So I want to invite Dave up. I'm really excited for what he has for us.
Well, it's great to be here. Nice courtesy golf clap. I like that. It's kind of like what happens when you're the principal. You know, it's like, oh, great, the principal's here. My dad was a high school principal, so I get that. That's kind of what I get to do. And when I show up at churches, they go like, oh, dang, you're here. That's not a good sign, is it? No, it's not. When your pastor is preaching heresy wearing a Denver Broncos jersey, we need some correction, don't we? I mean, seriously? I have been a Seahawks fan since 1976, okay? I have watched one world championship in the whole state in 1979 on my 12-inch color, mind you, color TV at my married student housing Getz Short Apartments at Central Washington University. Okay, it's been a long time. I understand why some of you would have jumped off the ship and, gone to other teams. I get it. It's kind of like everybody in the state is now a Seahawks fan. Well, thank you. I've been there for a long time. It's been a long drought. I'm still a Mariners fan. They've never won us anything since Ken Griffey and, the 95 little run that was kind of fun. Well, I bring you greetings from the Northwest Foursquare District. What's Foursquare? It's a game we play. Recess. Seriously. It's a group of churches. My wife would love to be here, but she is a second grade dual language teacher. She teaches in East Tacoma, 96% free and reduced lunch. And she goes between English and Spanish all day long. She is Hispanic, and I married her because she cooks it really well. 35 years ago. I oversee 158 churches, of which you are one. Now, what do I do to oversee you? Absolutely nothing. Because it doesn't need much overseeing when you have great leadership. And you have great leadership. I hope you understand that. And when a guy like me shows up, it is not a good sign. But today, it's simply because I happen to be in the area. Brad found out on Tuesday and said, would you come and speak at my church? I'm like, no. And finally wore me down, and I said, okay. And then he says, oh, on this passage, on this topic, and here's what I did last week, and would you do this? So I feel a little bit like I'm back at Central Washington University studying for my final exams. Instead, maybe I'll just tell you funny stories. Bring you greetings from those 158 other churches and 1,600 across the nation, 60,000 worldwide. Just a family of churches. It's not that big a deal. And it's just important in my mind to be part of something bigger than you. It's so easy to become isolated in this world, isn't it? The world isolates itself, and you're not doing that because you're part of something. But what I really want to thank you for is you probably don't even know how much Brad does in helping plant churches. You would have no idea, I would bet, because he probably wouldn't come home and tell you, hey, by the way, I have trained, not single-handedly, but as a team, 25 church plants in the last 4 years. I want to thank you for lending your pastor to do that. It's not like he's not busy enough. Okay, honestly, I worry about him with that. He can push himself beyond the limits. but most strong leaders really do that. And so you guys have to watch him to make sure he doesn't overdo that. You've helped train church plants in Austin, Texas, and one at UCLA right now, one in Atlanta, Georgia, one that's starting today in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, one that started just a few months ago in up by Airway Heights. Jacob Powers, I don't know how many of you would have known that. You guys gave money, time, energy. So it's huge because as a movement, as a denomination, what can we really do? We provide some covering, some accountability, those kinds of things. I think those are important. But really, this is about the kingdom of God. And people are all wringing their hands about Christianity going down the tank right now. I think it's the greatest hour for the church. People are more worried sometimes that it's legal to get high than people are going to hell. Really? People have been getting high since I was in high school. Like, really? That's not a big new thing. Oh, now it's legal, so it's terrible. I get the cultural ramifications, but seriously, folks, people need Jesus. And the church is the answer to that, and I am so excited that you guys are participating in that. Well, I want to launch into my introduction. And first of all, I want to just tell you that one of my pet peeves, if you ever email, don't start with this. Hey, friend. It's like automatically, that person is not my friend. Isn't it kind of weird when people say it? Hey, friend. You know what that says to me? It says, like, you probably don't even know the definition of the word. What is a friend in today's culture? Well, I think friendship is fairly important. You can live without it, but life's a whole lot better with it, isn't it? You can live alone. You can do that. You can go up in the mountains. You guys all know people that have done that. Just kind of go be a hermit. But like, really? That's a good thing? Because you're so cantankerous and you don't want to be around other people? I don't think that's such a good thing. I have a few friends on Facebook. Anybody here on Facebook? Now, I'm not here to bash on social media because honestly, I don't think it's the world's worst thing that ever happened. I know that a lot of people think that if you have social media, you're surely going to hell and that everything is really, really bad on social media. And I'm just telling you, some of us would hear that about guns, right? But it's kind of a tool, isn't it? Now, when my son Chad picks up a hammer, that is a bad sign, okay? When some of you pick up a hammer, you can do some really good stuff with it. I think social media is the same. It's a tool, and you can use it for good or you can use it for evil. I have a few friends on there, and I have a Facebook request that comes up every now and then. Somebody says, I want to be your friend. And I'm like, really? Okay. I accept everyone. But I always go and look and say, like, where do we connect? What circle of people am I connected to that person through? Because we might not be friends, but we are acquaintances, and I don't think that it's bad to have different levels of friendship. You know, some of those are just acquaintances, and that's not a bad thing. But I think that sometimes we have a tendency to not have good friends. We have a tendency to have a lot of Facebook kind of friends. Now, Zuckerberg is doing just fine from stealing the Winklevoss twins' idea when he was a freshman or sophomore at Harvard. He said, these guys have a great idea. They can't make it happen. I'm the geek, so they asked me to help them with it. I'm going to do more than help them with it. Courts made him pay the twins off $65 million. Don't worry about him. He's worth $31 billion today. Facebook's trading at $62 a share last time I looked. So he's doing fine, thank you. But honestly, Facebook was started at Harvard with the idea of friends going to find coffee and what's going on in your world. It's not a bad thing. They want it to be for your friends, and they limited it so that you couldn't just run your social website, your business off of it to 5,000 friends. Who here has 5,000 friends? I mean, really? They kind of went, like, if you can get to 5,000, seriously, those are not friends. Even Facebook says that. You have to go to a like page where people like you because you are more than, you're doing it for work. And you guys have all seen this. You've all watched the movie Social Network, I'm sure, and you know all about this. But I don't think that social media, websites, Facebook, Instagram, any of those are the enemy. I think it's the fact that our culture doesn't really do very well at boundaries. Boundaries are really important. I have a friend who's a counselor. He has an office right down the hall from me. My office is in Tacoma. You can feel sorry for me now. But I did pastor for 20 years in Oak Harbor, Whidbey Island. It's beautiful. So I traded beauty for ashes. Seriously. I live in the city. I have a bus stop here, a coffee shop here, a fireplace there, or a fire station there, and basically a flop house across the street. My wife does not think that's cool. And so I have a counselor friend down the hall. He's also a pastor, and he told me, I do not have one affair that I'm counseling that didn't begin on Facebook. Not one. Now, he's a little bit anti-Facebook, imagine that. I don't think that it's the tool. I think it's the lack of boundaries. What you do with your social media or whatever tool it is impacts how you live your life. So today we're going to talk about a couple of guys at Brad's request named David and Jonathan in 1 Samuel chapter 18, starting in verse 1. David and Jonathan are amazing people, and David gets great cred all through Scripture and all through Christianity. But I'm here to tell you that Jonathan is an amazing person in this story. Jonathan ate humble pie all through this story like never have I seen before. 1 Samuel 18, starting in verse 1. As soon as he had finished speaking to Saul, the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David. And Jonathan loved him as his own soul, and Saul took him that day and would not let him return to his father's house. Then Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as his own soul. And Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was on him and gave it to David, and his armor, and even his sword and his bow and his belt. He gave him all of those. So first of all, let's talk about what he said in verse 1. Jonathan's soul was knit to David. The Greek word, or the Hebrew word rather, literally means chained together. Their hearts were that entwined. They met. It seems like it was just a short cup of coffee exchange, and all of a sudden, boom, they're exchanged. I have a feeling, as oftentimes is when you research the Bible, that it was a lot longer period of time than we see right there. But those guys, his heart was knit together. It's a pretty impressive thing when you have David and Jonathan saying, I got your back. I'm for you. I'm with you. We're together. And that's an important principle of that. Now, I brought some things. I have 5 grandchildren, and I rated their toy box. My wife is with 2 of them right now. This is a Lego. I don't know how many of you have ever played with these, been to Legoland, Lego World. But some people thought I just brought my hat because I'm from Western Washington. I'd be cold. It's actually snowing there, too. This is a big Lego. It's got multiple places to connect. And when you have a relationship, it has to become knit together. And when you knit your heart together with somebody, you are connecting with that person. Now, not all friendships are like that. Not all friendships are that deep. And not all people have that kind of capacity to have multiple friendships. We're looking at the green guy. That guy's an extrovert, okay? This one, introvert, okay? We do 1. I have room for 1. Right there. Done. It's all right. God made them too. So here we have Legos, and what you have to understand, people, is that we are all looking for a connection. Now, when I go to Safeway, when I check out, what do they tell me? Hey, Mr. Veach, thanks for shopping with us. Okay, like you can pronounce, you read, and you do grammar. Good. Do I feel like that person is my friend? Do we have a connection? No, because they look at and they're trying to pronounce Mr. Veach. I mean, like No, that's not the way it is. And church, understand this. I visit a different church every Sunday. I pastored my own church for 20 years, and now I visit them. I go to them every Sunday. I have my own little church plant. I'm a part of it, University Place, Tacoma, that this young guy is planting, and I go, and he loves it because I'm older than he is, and I tithe. And I keep him alive, and he's like really happy that I show up once a month. But I'm just telling you, people are not looking for someone at the door with a bulletin, a program going like, hey, so glad you're here, Mr. You can't even read your name. What are they looking for? People are looking to connect. They're looking for a place to belong. And you have to have room on your Lego for people to connect with, or they're not going to connect. And understand this, you don't have to connect with everybody. If you don't connect with them, someone's new to the church, understand that find them someone they can connect with. Connecting is so important. David's heart was knit with Jonathan. So I pastored this church on Whidbey Island for 20 years. We moved to the 253. We live in the city. No friends, man. I have no friends in Tacoma. I don't know anybody there. I just moved there because my wife would not live in Puyallup. True story. And there are really nice houses, and there really is a nice part of Tacoma. Don't tell anyone, okay? We live in the nice part. But we didn't know anybody. And then we're gone all the time. We were part of one community of faith, and now I'm part of 158. I come, I sit in the front row, everybody treats me nice, but connection is really difficult. You know how we finally connected in our own little church plant we go to once a month? Which, by the way, once a month is really tough. Okay, if you're a once a monther, God bless you, Jesus loves you. Move to the middle of the parade anyway. Get a couple of times a month. But let me just tell you where we finally connected in our city. We hosted a small group. Guess what? People are coming to our house. We're not around very much. We travel a lot. My wife's now finally there because she teaches school. But understand that getting part of a small group helped us connect. And don't try one small group, try 10 until you find the place you connect. So many people go, I tried that. I didn't like those people. That's okay. They didn't like you. Go to the next one. It's not a bad thing. It doesn't say David and Jonathan connected with everyone they met. No, one. Boom. There's someone for you to connect with. You have to do the work to connect, though. We could have sat home going like, Tacoma is a bad place. There's gangs and everything. They have graffiti. I don't even know what it says. You know what else I have found about friendship? Is getting old stinks. How do I know I'm old? The last 2 times I went through TSA, the guys go, hey, all those body parts yours? Or is there metal in there? I'm like, what? Look at me. Oh, never mind. Guess I'm not young, am I? For years, we just followed our children to their events, and we found friends everywhere they went. They were on this team, and there were parents there. And, they were about the same age, doing the same stuff, and we hung out every Thursday night at practice or whatever, and we became friends. Wasn't difficult. They all left me. I don't have to go to their games anymore. I don't get to go to their games, I should say. I don't get to go to those kinds of things. And so now I have to be intentional about friendships. Today, I'm staying in Liberty Lake. Convenient, right? No. Why? Because the guy that led me to Jesus, after he knocked me out in aisle 4 because I was a little smart aleck 17-year-old who knew how to get under this little Christian skin and get under him, he punched me out in aisle 4. Literally, true story. His name's Glenn. He's a Christian and I was not, but I was a little mouthy and I knew I could get under him. And next thing I knew, I was like just looking up seeing stars. And our store manager the next day said, oh, you're fine. I'm like, oh, he's crazy. I'm not going in there. The guy ends up leading me to Jesus 40 years ago. We're still friends to this day. And I have a budget. I could stay in a hotel. I do that all the time. But I'm staying with my friend of 40 years. Why? Because it's important for me to cultivate those relationships. 40 years. I don't even think I'm that old. Verse 3, Jonathan made a covenant with David. Now, a covenant is something really interesting when you study it out. I studied out right after I became a Christian. I got the big old Strong's Concordance out. Remember those? And I looked up the word covenant. I don't even know why I was thinking about that. And I studied covenant. And I read and I read and I read every scripture I could find on the word covenant. You know what I finally synthesized it down to meaning? This is a promise. And if I break this promise, Lord, kill me. That's basically what a covenant means. So I made a few covenants in my life. One of them I talk about all the time. One of them is to read the Bible every single day. Why? Because I was 17, from a broken home, messed up, drug addicted, alcoholic. I mean, just 17, I was as far off as you could go and still get eligible for sports. So I don't know if you know this, but Nathan and I went to high school together. Nathan, who led worship. He was a couple classes ahead of me, I guess. Afraid of tigers. We're not afraid of nothing. The church his father pastors in Ephrata I went to when it was just a little Bible study. Part of the reason that I'm big on church planting. That church has impacted that community. And there are Llewellyns all over Foursquare leading amazingly. Mark Shaw, who planted the church, is an amazing guy. There are great things that have come out of Ephrata. I know you can't believe it. It's just like Nazareth. Good things come out of Ephrata. So they made this covenant, and my covenant was to always read the Bible every day. Every day. I will, a chapter away keeps the pastor away. A chapter a day keeps the pastor away. I mean, that's it. If you read the Bible, it will change you. And so that's what I did. I just said, God, I'm going to read the Bible every day. Still to this day. About 4 years ago, I remember waking up, going, oh, crud. I don't think I read the Bible yesterday. I mean, this is like 35 years into this kind of thing, right? And I'm thinking like, okay, God, well, I'm ready. Take me home. And then I just started laughing. Because I made that promise, God could take me anytime he wanted, couldn't he? It's not like he was bound to, I will never die, you will never die as long as you read your Bible. If you don't, you're going home, dude. It wasn't like that at all. It was more for me. The covenant was for me because as I am transformed, it's by reading of the Word. How are you transformed? You're transformed by looking in the mirror and going, that's not good. I'm not living that way. I need to change my life. I didn't have people yelling and screaming at me, telling me, stop that, stop that. I just knew as I got into the Word, don't do that anymore. That's not helping you. That attitude's not working for you. Worship me more. Allow me to be the Lord of your life. The covenant that Jonathan and David made was that they had each other's back. Verse 4, he says he gave him his robe, his armor, his sword, his bow, and his belt. Now that's really weird when you think about it. Like I'm just going to, here's my jacket. Like I got it for $10 at the Macy clearance rack, but hey, it's yours. And here's my belt, I got that at Walmart. I mean, like doesn't translate into our culture, does it? What would it be? It's like I'm giving you my jacket and my gun here. Think about it this way. Jonathan was the heir apparent to the king. And what he's saying is, no, dude, I am not to be the guy. You are. I'm giving you everything that symbolizes who you will be and what I am supposed to be. I am laying my entire life down and giving it to you because God said you are it. That is serious humble pie. Now I'm around a lot of leaders. Let me just tell you what they don't eat very well. Humble pie. People don't like being replaced. People don't like being told, no, you're not the guy, that person is. My job, I run around telling people, no, we chose him, I'm sorry. Oh man, that's wrong, I'm the guy. No, he's the guy. Jonathan's saying, no, you're the guy. I am not the guy. It's like giving away the deed to your kingdom, the deed to your dad's castle, your entire future, and going like, I am here to serve you. Jonathan, man, he's my hero. Everybody loves David, but I'm just telling you right now, I'm around a lot of leaders, they don't do this well. Here's Jonathan saying, you are the guy. Can you imagine that? So in chapter 20, verses 1 through 17, I'm not going to read you this whole passage, but I do want you to see some things that are in the middle of that. Jonathan tells David, my father does nothing either great or small without disclosing it to me. In other words, I'm going to figure out if my dad wants to kill you. Because friendships are costly. Did you know that? After a while, I mean, you connect with somebody, but then after a while, they're costly. You don't just like go hang out with them when it's good. A real true friend is more than just like, oh, bummer, yeah, I'll hit like on your prayer request. It's like, no, I will be there in the middle of the night when you need something. Now, I'm grateful to people that hit like and are praying for something. I don't mock that. I'm good with that. But I want someone to be there too. It's not right or wrong, it's different depths. I think we have a tendency just to bag on everybody that doesn't do it the deepest level. But look at our language. Our language for love is like, I love my wife. I love chocolate. I love the Seahawks. I mean, I heard so many funny things this week. Grown men on the radio just like Seahawks, they won. I'm like, oh my gosh. I teared up a couple of times, so I'm sorry. Love has got different variations, doesn't it? Greek has 5 different definitions. We use them all interchangeably. I think friendship is the same way. We have Facebook friends and we have deep friends. We have 40-year relationships. Are you cultivating those? David and Jonathan are looking at them like, dude, I have your back. I'm going to make sure my dad doesn't kill you. Spears had been flying already. So he had reason to believe that was going to happen. And Jonathan said in verse 4 to David, whatever you say, I'll do it. You know, how many times have you written cards to people that have lost a significant other or something really deep in their life? Hey, I'm there for you. I got your back. Whatever it is, let me know. Sometimes we mean it. Sometimes we don't. But understand, there are people in our lives that will. And we need to let them. Jonathan was saying that to David. I've got you. Whatever it is, I've got you. He says, I may hide myself in the field till the 3rd day at the evening. So he tells David, look, go out here, out into the woods. Actually, it's wilderness. I've been to where they think David was hiding right above the Dead Sea, and there's all these caves, and it looks like Eastern Washington. It looks like Euphrates. It looks like Sun Lake State Park, really. Have you ever been to Sun Lake State Park? And you have all of those big canyons and rocks and crevasses. That's what the terrain looks like where David was hiding. He was hiding and just behind sagebrush so that Saul wouldn't kill him for days. It's pretty amazing when you think about it. I mean, I don't even want to walk out there, and I'm from there. Verse 17, Jonathan made David swear again by his love for him, for he loved him as he loved his own soul. Who do you love like that? What friend can you say, I love that dude like my own soul. I love that lady like my own soul. I'll give them the keys to the kingdom. I'll give them whatever it takes because I have your back. How many of you have seen the movie 300? The movie 300, I have not seen. But I've watched a few clips of it, and I've seen it illustrated in this. And I think there's a picture that's going to be up behind me of what happens in the movie 300. According to the historians, the movie takes liberty. Does that surprise you? There's not quite as many enemy as is portrayed in the movie. But the concept is exactly the same. Exactly right that. Can we find that? No, we can't do it. Okay, well, I'm going to tell you about it then. There is a group of men with shields, and every one of them are side by side by side by side. And the concept of this war strategy is that no one is to break through the line. It's kind of like playing Red Rover, only it's a little more for life and death. You know, remember when the great big guy would come on Red Rover? You go like, dude, this is life and death? No, this is really life and death. And these guys had their shields, and the point was no one can get through this, and I've got my friend, if it's coming this side, I've got that. Wherever it's coming from, the shield will protect you. Now, I'm told, as I've studied this out a little bit, I'm told that it was worse for you to come home without your shield than it was for you to come home on your shield. Like, in other words, we're going to battle, don't lose your shield. Why? Because your entire line, your entire army, your entire people have this in common. We have each other's back. See, I think the deepest level of friendship is somebody that has the other person's back. Just like in the movie 300, they have each other's back. David and Jonathan, they have each other's back. Whose back do you have? And who's got your back? See, I think we have to choose to have some relationships that are deeper, that have that kind of covenant community that says, I have your back. Whatever you're going through, I'm there for you. Now, I am around churches all the time. Like I said, I visit them often. My friend who led me to the Lord, I'm staying at his house, just moved here. He's moving next week. I'm like, that's interesting. He's actually attending a Foursquare Church, Marabou Chapel. I think they wish it was Malibu. Anyway, just Marabou. And they're involved in a small group, 242. They got to move out of this rental. They've been there just a year. I'm like, so what are you doing? Your kids coming to help you? No. My small group's coming to move me. Who's got your back? Who do you have community with? The problem with a church that grows over 100 people is, guess what? None of you know who's a regular and who's not. You all assume the other person has been here forever. I was here a few years ago. You guys haven't been here forever. Trust me, there are more of you in here right now than were there then. So who's got your back, and who are you building that community with? Small groups, I'm just telling you, don't go to 1, go to 10. When you've been to 10 and you haven't found community, then call Nick, okay? How many of you ever heard of a guy named Patrick Lencioni? Patrick Lencioni is one of my favorite authors. Read everything that he has written. I have been to several seminars by him. He wrote a book called The Advantage. I highly recommend it to any of you that are leadership-oriented. And in the precept of this book is that all organizations are built on one word, one thing, one concept. You know what that is? Trust. If you trust the people that you work for, you will give them everything that you have. If you don't trust them, things get a little dicey, don't they? Marriage built on trust. You trust your spouse, good relationship. Distrust, not so good. Every relationship is built on trust. Right now, we trust in Russell, which is pretty hilarious to me. I mean, I'm a Russell fan. I've been around him. He's a good man, not personally around him in a meeting where he's speaking. I was at the only home loss. I go once a year usually. The only home loss to the Arizona Cardinals. Third quarter, people started booing Russell Wilson. Okay, now, I get it. They want to win, and they're sad when they don't. But look, should we go through some quarterbacks? You know, McGuire. Yeah, I mean, seriously? You're going to boo Russell because of one game we lost? People are fickle, and they flip on you like that. And right now, today, everything's amazing because we're Super Bowl champions. And yet, how can you root against the Mannings? How can you root against, I mean, there's like God-fearing, good man, loves God. John Fox, who almost went home with a heart. This guy's saying before the game, like, if the Lord was taking me home, how do you root against them? But as a culture, we are so polarized, yes or no. And honestly, so many people don't have community, and they don't have covenant relationships. They don't have down-to-earth friendships, that their entire community is based upon a sports team. When you look at the rooting that goes on, to where a couple of Husky football players beat somebody up for wearing the wrong jersey, we don't really know how to do community. But if you have true community, you understand there's nothing wrong with being a fan, but seriously, this is a game played by really large, really fast men. I'm all for that, but I'm not trusting in that. I love my friend that I'm staying with, but you know what? We can go a year or two without talking and pick right up where we were. It's fine. It's not a big deal. You don't have to call me. I'm low maintenance. But understand this. There is someone that's always going to be there for you. Proverbs 18:24 says, "A man who has friends must show himself friendly, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother." Well, what does Jesus mean when he's calling you his friend? Because I think Jesus is a friend that will always be there for you. I think it's great to have community. I think it's great to have covenant relationships. I think it's great to be in a small group. But none of those people died on a cross for me. And when I go home tonight and I crawl in my bed alone because my wife's gone or I'm gone, who's going to be with me? Jesus. He's a friend that sticks closer than a brother. And not only that, he is the one that's the lover of my soul. John 15:15 says that I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I've called you friends. For everything that I've learned from my Father, I've made known to you. When Jesus called you his friend, what kind of a friend did he mean? Hey, hook me up on Facebook. Look me up. I'll friend you. Follow me on Twitter or Instagram. No, I think he was saying, this relationship's really important to me. In fact, I'll die for you on a cross. I think he was saying that I have your back, literally hell and back, for you. I think he was saying that he wants to know you, really know you. Not just know about you, not just know a couple of things, not just know your Social Security or the number of hairs on your head, but know you. I think he was saying that he's not the God that's way out there that all of the world is mad at because of the rules and the regulations. That he wants to be the God that's in here, who loves you, who knows everything about you. When you think about that, how silly is it to live a duplicitous life as a Christian? So many Christians live such a dual life, in public one and in private another. That's such horse stuff. He already knows your junk. And you know what? If you let people know your junk too, they would walk with you through it as opposed to exclude you because of it. You don't have to hide. Your greatest friend is the one that gave his life for you on a cross. Your greatest friend isn't way up there, a great big God. He's way in here, a God that cares about everything in your life. So what? What do we do? Make connections. Small ones, big ones, deep ones. Make connections. Make room for people to connect. Help them connect. It's so important to connect. Cultivate some, just a few, but cultivate them down deep. And let Jesus be your deepest friend.